Hi.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good, Dean. How you?
Doing great. Doing great.
Dean, you're a little bit in a golden orb over there. Is this a past life you're in or what's going on?
I think so, yeah. It's weird lighting in here. If I let too much in, it'll turn the room 110 degrees.
All I'm going to tell you is you look like Brad Pitt, a bronze god. I don't know what's going on there, Dean.
Well,
Bronze god happening.
if it's covering up my deathly pallor, then I guess that's a good thing.
All right, then throw some my way, babe. Okay.
It's lovely to talk to you. I am so happy to be talking to you.
I'm so happy to be talking. I'm really excited. This is good.
Yeah, I hope did you get a chance to look at the questions?
Yes, I
Are they
did.
okay? Are they okay?
They're great.
Good. Okay, I want to make sure.
They're
Are there
great.
anything you want to change or anything like that?
No.
Okay. And this isn't live, so if we need to edit anything out, if you want to do a question again, we can redo it.
Good. And if I start coughing, I just hit the thing.
Yeah,
I don't generally cough, Dean, but you know, who the heck knows?
Yeah, things happen.
Things could happen. Listen, we're hanging by a thread over here.
One little question for you.
Yeah.
I can put, there's three options for this. I can put this out today. I can put this out the day the book comes out, or I could do both. I could air it the day the book comes out.
Can you do both?
Yeah, I would like to do that actually.
Good.
All right. And yeah, I think that's about it. That's all the you do this all the time, I'm sure. So
Yes.
Yeah. You're a podcaster, so you know.
I know.
I'm already recording, so don't have to do that. That's my biggest worry. So I always do it ahead of time because I don't want to forget.
Good.
All right. I'm just going to do a backwards countdown and start. Later on in post-production, I'll put in a longer bio.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Don't bore them, Dean, please.
Oh, there is no boring with your bio. It's a very opposite of that. I am very honored and humbled to be talking to you.
Oh, Dean, stop it.
Your bio is pretty impressive. You're kind of a big thing.
I work my Italian American ASS off.
Yeah, apparently.
Well, apparently that's what I do.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm like you. I love what I do. So it's no problem. It just takes a lot of rest and a lot of focus and writing every day. Kind of that's what the key is. That's my job.
I wanted to make one change. When I talk about your background, I discovered in the time period that I sent to you that your mother was a librarian, and I want to talk about that.
That's a biggie.
Yeah.
That's my whole jam.
As a librarian, I find that to be very important stuff.
It's essential. I'm glad you caught that.
Yeah. All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the podcast. Today, we're talking with Adriana Trigiani. It's wonderful to have you here. You wear so many creative hats: author, playwright, screenwriter, and more. I want to start at the beginning if we can. You've got this amazing background growing up in the mountains of Southwest Virginia, and now you call Greenwich Village home. I'm curious, what is it like growing up in Southwest Virginia, and what are some of your early memories of that time?
Well, Dean, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
But I would like to dive right in on Big Stone Gap and growing up Appalachian.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a code there. They're the most beautiful people in the world, and their lineage and history is extremely honorable because they survived generations by the labor of their own hands. So the men were miners in the coal mines, which were fraught and dangerous. And the women worked as hard to maintain their families. And many of my friends went into the coal mines. And when I was a young cub reporter at WNVA radio station in Norton, Virginia, when I was 15, I learned very, very deeply what the commitment to the land and the people and survival was. So when I talk about my childhood, there's the Appalachian way of life. Now that's the foundation of it. But then it was so cool to grow up there. And I use the word cool because nobody ever says that. We had so much art and music and books at our disposal. There was a bookmobile. I wrote about it in Big Stone Gap. To me, it was enchanted when that it was a painted bread truck, but it came down, little stools in it. And Mr. Varner was the librarian. And we had personal relationships that lasted our lifetime with our librarians. And then in the late 70s, we get this big gift from the C. Bascom Slump Memorial Foundation to build a library down the hill from where I lived. We lived in one of the oldest houses in town, built in 1890. Nothing ever worked in that house. That's another story. But drafty, fireplaces in every room, just it's like Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle's house. I loved it, with incredible woodwork and a beautiful design. Having said that, it was old. Everything was old and lots was broken, but not the people. The people were the funniest, the smartest, the most street smart that I've ever known. And I live in New York. So to me, the Appalachian spirit is everything. And the Appalachian way of life is the foundation of everything, of anything that you do that's hard work. So growing up there, it was verdant. It was very green. It smelled good. When the leaves turned, it was like jewels on the mountainsides. The winter I happened to love very much when it snowed, and it snowed heavily there when I was a kid, talking about the 1970s now. We lived on a hill, so everybody came up there to sled ride when we had snow days from school, which was often. Sports was a big thing. Not that I was ever really into sports, but I was into going to, it was social. You went to the football games on Friday night. It was great. And you went, that's when you got all the gossip out of the way of the week. And when the spring came, it was Tuesday. I don't know if your school was like this. Tuesdays and Fridays were basketball nights.
Yeah.
And you went to baseball games in the spring, right?
Yeah. I lived in Washington, so that was like that there. It was rural, and it was a big deal.
I mean, I always say to myself, I went into show business. I always wanted to go into show business. By the way, I consider literature show business. So forgive me, everybody out there. You won't find any snobism between Dean and me today. No. I thought it was show business. And I always thought how cool it was if you were a good athlete, and it was usually the boys, but I grew up after Title IX. So the girls were great in sports too.
Yeah.
So sports was like a thing.
Yeah.
And it was fun. And I think not being in sports informed me in a way that I did play tennis for 1 year, but when I got an F in typing, my father made me quit, thinking that I would have more time in the typing room if I quit sports. Okay. So maybe this is why I'm not too into sports, but anyhow, I learned growing up there that, if you had a talent, you had to show it and you had to use it. Yeah. And if you didn't, shame on you. You're spitting in the face of God. You better use your talent. So I just kind of figured out very early on what my talents were.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did too. It's like what you follow. You do what you want to do. So, but at the heart of that was always reading. It's something I was noticed for. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I'm a middle child. I'm funny. I think that's probably the thing I lead with is humor. Yeah, to me, to be funny is like, that's the greatest gift God could have given me. I take it over beauty. I take it over academic excellence. I take funny over athletic ability. Funny to me is like, I think it's one of the great ones. You get out of a lot of situations where
it helps you survive.
It helps you survive, and you figure out where you fit in the world. And then it helps you communicate with people that maybe hate your guts.
Yeah. Or it could be an opening.
Just by looking at you.
Yeah. It's a good way to get to know people too. I found I've lived a lot of different places. I've traveled a lot, and it's the opening thing. You get to make people laugh and they suddenly want to bond with you.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Most important sense of all the senses, the sense of humor.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Your mom was a librarian, I read, and
Well,
I was
that's
very
the
interested in that.
well. I'm talking to a librarian, so I'm going to tell you about her.
I'd love
First
to
of
hear
all,
it.
my mother was to me, okay, and I'm sure my brothers and sisters. I'm one of seven. Um, my mother was an extraordinary woman, but like women of her era, she gave up her career to raise her seven children. And I think this is a mistake. Um, I used to say you didn't have to salt your food because my mother was crying into the spaghetti sauce. Okay, gravy. You don't have to salt your food at our house. There was a great longing in my mother for that academic life, that life of reading and finding answers to big questions and helping guide students with the big questions. And the story goes, and this is, you're going to find hard, this is hard to believe, but we did have a star athlete in my family. My mom's brother, Orlando Bonicelli from Chisholm, Minnesota. He was state championship slaters, and he was recruited by Notre Dame, full ride. My grandparents were immigrants. If you want to read kind of their fictionalized story, read The Shoemaker's Wife. They came from northern Italy, met in Hoboken, but they lived in villages 5 miles apart in the Italian Alps. I mean, it's an incredible story, which why
Wow.
it's a novel. And my mom was the baby of the twins. She had a sister, Irma. My mother was Ida, and her older brother Orlando just was tall, alpine, gorgeous, Italian, and became a basketball star. Goes to Notre Dame. In the middle of his time there, World War II breaks out. His father, my grandfather Carlo, was gassed in the trenches of France as a young man in 1918.
Oh.
He developed a cancer from being gassed in the trenches of France. It's all in The Shoemaker's Wife. And he died at the age of 39, leaving behind my grandmother, also an immigrant, on the Iron Range in Minnesota, about 5 miles from Hibbing, where the great Bob Dylan is from.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you get up there, that's like, I'm telling you, it's like Antarctica up there. It's freezing cold, but it is the most beautiful. Minnesota, I was just there, the most beautiful state. Okay. You're starting to get a theme here with where we were raised. We're raised in these pastoral settings. Okay.
Yeah.
So my mom was such a reader because her mother was a reader. Her mother, who mastered English, would go to the library and get these big beefy novels and digest them, and that's how she built her vocabulary. And so her kids, she sent them to the public library in Chisholm, Minnesota, which is this enchanted, like, it's shaped like it's in a corner, it's like a triangle building. It is, but it's old, and it's so cozy, and there's book nooks in there. And so when I went to visit up there, we went to the library, and my mom was part of a summer program where whoever read the most books won a book, and she won Heidi, which always made us laugh because Heidi, of course, takes place in the Swiss Alps. She was just like her people from Scopario and the Italian Alps. I mean, it was just like the same story. But my mom learned how to rebind books. She learned the reverence of the word, of the written word, and she became a book file, which is really, readers and writers become librarians.
Yes.
There's a resurgence in your career right now. I know a lot of young people that are going to library science, and I think it's fantastic.
Me too.
So that was my mom, and she was quite beautiful, and she met my dad. Okay, so my uncle, we called him Uncle Bonnie because it's Bonicelli, but they say Bonicelli, and so we called him Uncle Bonnie, but it was Orlando, my uncle Orlando. He goes to Notre Dame, distinguished career, goes in the war, comes back, finishes the last 2 years, basketball star. His two sisters are graduating from St. Catherine's in the Twin Cities in library science, both of them. So my Aunt Irma went to the science library, and my mother went to the architecture library, which was non-existent. It was like a dusty closet. And my mother invented the library.
Yes.
So get this. Okay, so mom raises all of us, but we get a letter when she dies that the University of Notre Dame says, without Ida Bonicelli's contribution, the architecture department at the University of Notre Dame would not have been accredited. So every graduate of that program owes a little tip of the hat to my mother. But that was my mom. But it took her dying for us to learn this.
I love stories like that because I know a lot of librarians who have done things like that, and people think that being a librarian is easy, but oftentimes you got to really think on your feet and do a lot of heavy
Mhm.
work. And doing what she did is it's a lot.
Heavy work with no money.
Well, yeah, it's. I tell people I love my job, but I wish it paid better.
Yeah. And I wish it did too, but we can work on that.
Yeah.
We can
I
work on.
You did something else that sounds so incredible that I want to talk about, and I think this sounds really amazing to me. You work on something called the Origin Project, and
Mhm.
you touch the lives of over 25,000 students. Can you tell me about this, how this came about, and what the work meant to you?
Well, I raised a daughter in New York City. And you can eh, on a rainy day, the kids in this city go to the library or they go to a museum.
Yeah.
And when it's sunny out, they're on the water or they're over by the water or I think this city is a great place to raise kids. Some people might disagree with me, but I thought it was enchanted for my kid.
Mhm.
And so Nancy Bohmeyer Fisher, who was an old friend, she passed away last year, which is tragic for us, co-founded with me at the Origin Project because I went to her when I was making the Big Stone Gap movie because I had, a few months to really embed with my old friends and their kids and the world in Southwest Virginia. And I thought, what is it that I can do? Because I have limited skills. Okay. And I'm not going to, I'm not a Rockefeller. I'm none of that stuff. But I have a set of skills. And I said, what can I do? So I sat down with Nancy, who's a philanthropist, now she's in heaven. And I said, Nancy, I want to do an in-school writing program because the reason I'm a writer is because pencils and paper were really cheap and the library was free. So how can we marry all these ideas? So we came up with a year-round in-school writing program in Virginia. It's called the Origin Project because it's about being proud of your roots.
Love that.
So we have kids who work an entire year. We teach them how to journal because if I can get one kid to journal, and we get thousands to journal, and it's so much fun. I said, make this. We hand out the little leather bound books. And I said, make this your own. Put your picture on it. Do what make it yours. And for the entire year, you're going to work on one story of origin. So it can be about how their papa was in Vietnam. It might be about how I'm the only Jewish kid in 5 counties in Southwest Virginia. Or it might be, Mama makes the best cornbread. Here's the recipe. It could be any of those things, but it's a celebration of your roots, your family, and your origin. And when children don't have parents, Dean, the most poignant, beautiful stories about how the community lifts them up. Fantastic. So every year we publish an anthology, and we've done it for 10 years. And the program's been around 15, I think, 14 or 15. I never get numbers right. I'm terrible with numbers. But we publish them. So they are published authors by the end of the school year. And we bring in authors that will never go to South, would normally not go down there. And the difference between living where you live or I live is authors come through.
Right.
So we've brought through some superstars from David Baldacci with his
Wow.
YA series to Jarrett Krozaska, who did the Lunch Lady series and drew for the kids. Katie Camillo's coming this fall. Kwame Alexander's going to come. I mean,
Wow.
so these kids meet who they would never meet. And I'm just looking to throw some gas on the fire. Like if this is an instinct of yours, let us help you. And then the overarching thing is no matter what you go into in life, whether you are, a coal manager or you work for the fire department or you're going to have to be able to write.
Yeah.
So the Origin Project, so it's fun, but it's work. And we borrowed the Bank Street model that you work on one thing for the entire school year so that you feel you've perfected something on the page.
It's so amazing. Have you ever talked to anybody who did it 10 years ago and they're coming back to tell you about how it changed their life?
Absolutely. In fact, Zara, that's on our board, is one of them.
Oh,
And she's an immigrant. And Virginia, because of many reasons, but you're close to DC, you're close to Maryland, and you're close to the coastal of Virginia, which is military.
yeah.
You have a huge influx of immigrants. And so the state has a gorgeous, gorgeous immigrant patina. And so we celebrate that. So the kids now are not just Protestants. You got a few Catholics thrown in there. I think you know where I grew up, less than 1% of the population was Roman Catholic, and that's what I am.
Yeah.
And with the one Jewish family, we did Passover every year. So it's an opening up and a broadening of the borders. Now, here's where the librarians come in. Library of Virginia has us every fall when we do the awards there. We bring the kids in and we have speakers there. We had John Wilson, who was from Big Stone Gap and became, a nationally prominent journalist, television anchor. We try to find folks that we think the kids will swoon and relate to. Adrian Brodeur came down to lead the teachers, the librarians and the educators in a workshop about memoir writing. She's a superstar. So that's kind of how we do it. Amy Spain from down in Big Stone Gap has a writing program down there. And she came this last fall, and she's going to come again this fall. Jeanette Walls. See where I'm going here?
Yeah.
It's like we pick people that these kids will understand and relate to. I mean, Jeanette Walls in Glass Castle, West Virginia, the story of a writer, fledgling, little kid. I mean, a girl. It's just delicious. And the kids relate.
I love that. That sounds, I'm just thinking about it as you're talking. I'm thinking about the scope of this and how, and it's a very impressive thing. I hope the listeners are kind of getting this, because this is huge.
Yeah. And write to me. If you want to do something with us, write to me. If you have ideas, I love that. And Dean, we're going to pull you in. I mean, because you're close by. And I think, we're out hustling all the time, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. As long as these kids are the beneficiaries, it's okay.
Yes, absolutely. And I really, I have a really great diverse immigrant population here as well. And it's just really gorgeous. And right now, I really am very interested in celebrating the diversity that immigration brings to America. I think it's a very important thing right now.
Well, I grew up in a home where immigrant was a word of honor.
Yeah, and it should be.
And then look, I would say most people in America believe that.
Yeah.
Most do. So why don't we walk the walk, folks? If we believe it, if we are the beneficiaries of the immigrant status, which almost all of us are, except of course the enslaved, they were dragged here.
Yes.
And we have to acknowledge that, but you'll never forget, you'll never find a more forgiving, uplifting group of people in the United States than the immigrant.
Absolutely.
So let's get with it here and stop the crazy.
Yes, we need to stop the crazy very much.
Yeah. And I'm saying that now. These sides that are they're I don't believe in that either.
No,
I don't believe in that. I think that in America we believe a lot of different things.
Yes.
Within one person is a belief system. Sometimes you'll agree with it, sometimes you won't, but we must come together. That's why the Origin Project is so important, because it's the individual voice in the collective community. So the Library of Virginia, probably one of the best systems in the country. Listen, I get to travel a lot. I see a lot of great situations. I mean, on my tour, I'm about to go on book tour, I'm going to many libraries. It's always like a treat. It's a treat to go into the library and see what your, peers are doing all across the country. It's really exciting. And I think the Origin Project is in reverence to the library. The library hosts us a lot of the time. And by the way, this, Dean, and my mother saw this before she died, which is the library became the community center of the town.
It is. Absolutely. I mean, I see it, and people come there, and it's a peaceful place For so many people, they have to get out of the house for one reason or another, or the kids have to, and it can have many functions, I think.
Well, the elderly,
Yeah.
it's a respite. The
Yeah.
programming at the library for children, it's a respite and a inspiring.
Yeah.
I used to do my homework at the library.
Me too.
So it just depends on how you use it. But we have to remember that it's a public institution, that somebody somewhere along the way said the great societies have libraries.
Yeah.
They're
Absolutely.
essential to the lifeblood of a community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agree with you 100%. And
Yeah.
I know I'm biased, but like I totally, before I was a librarian, I knew that, and somebody
Yeah.
who used one,
I want to point out that to become a librarian, the level of education that is required is enormous. And there is a whole lot to it, folks. And for you to go into the library, and ask for the latest bestseller is one thing. But there is great scholarship, history, a vision of culture, and shared and intellectualism that is important in a community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's reciprocal. I mean, they give us back. We work in tandem with the communities. We're not separate. We're part of it. It's like a total integration.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about your books, because I'm just so impressed by this. I don't know how you've been able to do this in one lifetime, but you've written 21 books. Most of them have been bestsellers. That's so impressive. I want to mention The Good Left Undone, The Shoemaker's Wife, Lucia, and we have coming up in July, The View from Lake Cuomo coming out. I want to ask, looking back at all these books, how does it feel right now to have this breadth of work and more coming out?
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm a person who never feels ahead of anything. I always feel like I'm behind.
Yeah, I understand.
So when I talk to other writers, we have this thing, this idea that we're not doing enough because it takes a lot to write a novel. And I think to have a point of view about who you are as a novelist is really important. And I spend a lot of time when I can pondering the greats like Edna Ferber and Pearl S. Buck. And then I've gotten to know, of course, many of my brilliant contemporary fellow authors. I would not call myself brilliant, but I think they are.
I
And
think
I
they would
like,
call you brilliant.
well, that would be kind of them, but I don't know how. I always try to just make the new book better than the last one in any way that I can. And I don't like to be categorized. So
Yeah.
the minute they said I had done 4 Big Stone Gap books, or I'd done 3, and then I did Lucia, which was set in New York City in the mid 50s based on a true story, then they suddenly said, oh, she's not that. Then when I always had history in my books. And so then they said I was historical fiction. Well, then I wrote The View from Lake Como, which is completely set in this moment.
Yeah.
So I try to unnerve myself and never get comfortable. I am not a genre fiction writer, though I marvel at them. There's a dead body on the beach. Who did it? Okay, that's a fantastic premise for a book, right?
Yeah.
For a propulsive page turner. I don't do that. I don't do that. I'm well aware of dramatic tension in the twist, but I've been given the luxury of learning it over 21 books.